Good morning. Wow, I've been pondering here this morning, actually yesterday too. Now let me just do the title and the blurb and then we'll talk about it. No need for a prelude. But OPPT, World Banking, and the news. There's no doubt in my mind that many things, as we have known them, are changing. News of change is everywhere, mainstream and alternative. I posted an article on my Facebook wall that I got from what I thought was a reputable alternative news site, beforeitsnews.com. Then I learned the same article was also on a satirical website. Oh my, was it true? Then there is news making the rounds about a shift in world banking from North American and European dominance to the BRICS nations of Brazil, Russia, India, Iran, Indonesia, and South Africa. One thing seems certain. With the revelations brought forth by the One People's Public Trust, an ever-growing percentage of people are aware that big corporations and big banks have been committing fraud on many levels and have been engaged in human slave trade. The overall effect of these revelations on the changes we are experiencing remains to be seen. Yes, the article that I posted, the headline stated, Jamie Dimon resigns from JP Morgan, says put bankers in jail. And since I posted it, when did I post it? Does it have a date? Tuesday. I posted it on Tuesday late afternoon, my time. 123 people have shared my post, many of them pointing out that it was satire. It wasn't a true story. Well, let me tell you, that bothered me because I like, don't get me wrong, I like the satire sites. When I published my magazine, I used to print articles from Landmark Baptist Church, which is a satire website. I enjoyed the dialogue or the commentaries that people would send me back. Back then it wasn't online. It was usually, well, sometimes it was emails too, but sometimes it was actual letters that I used to get because we weren't as adept at using the internet back then, and there was not all the social media going on back in the late 90s. I did my magazine from 1996 till 2001, 60 months, 5 full years. Anyway, it was interesting to watch people comment, and there was truth in the satire. And there was, if this article is satire, there's truth in it. If it hasn't happened exactly the way it was written, it should have happened the way it was written. And the New York Times had an article about J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon, not about him resigning, but about him taking the heat and having several of his high-ranking officials, including the fourth highest paid person in the J.P. Morgan payroll, a lady executive, did resign. So there are resignations going on at high places in banking. So it would not have surprised me at all if Jamie Dimon had resigned, and it would not have surprised me if he, being one of the elite players, if you will, spoke the truth. Because I honestly believe there are going to be people that are part of the elite establishment that are going to start singing like canaries and telling the truth about what's been going on. I believe that. And I believe that it's not going to be able to be stopped. But by the same token, I was sadly duped by Before It's News because they supposedly only print the truth. That's in there when you go to their about thing, and I went and looked it up. They don't print false articles. And yet somebody said that there's a disclaimer somewhere in there. In fact, Let me read that. My friend Aaron wrote about this whole thing. He said it's a good example of how lawyers turn everything into a lie. Very good. There is presumably small print somewhere on the site. Again, I think he's talking about beforeitsnews.com. So they are therefore covered for saying lies. How about we all start printing with a laser printer on any contract we sign, tiny, tiny writing saying not binding? I have a game on my Xbox that says it's a super realistic driving simulator, but a tiny flash on the beginning of the game says it's not meant to simulate real life. Or you get movies that say everything is based on actual facts, and at the end, tiny writing for 1 second saying it's a work of fiction. I think all of us injured parties should send emails to the site that they did not make the satire clear enough. It is not sufficient for them to say everyone knows it's a satire site or it's there on the About page. Disinformation is the top Illuminati method. So this is quite a big issue which reaches to the sham of law and legalese. Yes, that's the world we live in. Everything is a sham. And the one people's public trust, if it did anything at all, it reminded people the truth about the world we live in. It reminded us that nothing is as it appears to be. And I know that, and many people know that. And because we do know that, and because that the number of us that are realizing this are aware of how the game has been played, they can't play the game that way anymore. So when the BRICS nations are setting up an alternative banking system to compete with the Federal Reserve and other central banks of Europe, it's big news. Now, of course, there's going to be people saying, how do we know it's not the same people playing with BRICS and they're just moving the headquarters, if you will, or moving the nexus of the banking system from Europe and North America to Asia and the southern hemisphere, or actually, South America and Africa. Who's to say that that's not what's happening? Okay, I don't know. But I know this. There is an awakening going on. I know this, that many, many, many people are not going to be so easily duped as they were in the past because of the awakening. I know this. It's going to make it a lot harder for who's ever pulling the strings to get away with it and not have somebody telling the truth about what's going on behind the scenes. Because the news, whether it's mainstream or alternative, the news is beginning to report things that have truth in them. I'd like to think that all the alternative news sites are true. They're not. They're run by some of the same people that run the mainstream news things. Everything has been infiltrated. Aaron's got it right. It's all been infiltrated. He's also got it right. There's always fine print. The line that you sign on your check is actually on your checks is actually fine print. If you get a magnifying glass, I haven't done this, but I've read about it. Before I talked about it, I should have actually tried it for myself. Did I put that back? Yes, I did. Just looking to see if my magnifying glass was there. I had loaned it to somebody in one of my meetings a couple of weeks ago, and I just wondered if I remembered to put it back where it's supposed to be. Because sometimes when I don't, then I can't find it. Anyway. Oh, how do I get off on these asides? What's happening, now I lost my train of thought, but what's happening is with the awakening, there have to be adjustments made in what's going on overall. And I don't believe the overall changes can happen the way that I'd like to see them happen without, and I said this in a comment to somebody yesterday, I don't remember who, without extraterrestrial help. And I don't mean them doing it for us, I mean them standing with us. Or the alternative is a divine empowerment, if you will, an awakening in me and others that want the truth to come out and want a world that is not filled with lies and filled with fraud and uh, filled with violence and all the sick games that the elite have been playing for a long time. I'd like a world like that, but we need to be empowered. I need to be empowered so that if some of these well-meaning police or whatever confront me, that I can withstand the confrontation without being harmed, without harming them or being harmed by them. I need that ability. Does such ability exist? It was demonstrated for me, whether truth or fiction, in the Anastasia book. It was what book? Not book 2. It was probably book 3, where the story was told about the Russian authorities coming to take her back to live on a compound outside of Moscow so that they could protect her. She needed no protection. She had supernatural powers. I'd love those supernatural powers, not to harm people, simply for self-defense. And everybody should have the ability to be able to defend themselves against well-meaning authority figures who are acting unlawfully and violating human rights. This is an important thing, but the financial structure, again, and I know a lot of my friends are on the get rid of money bandwagon. Well, I'm sorry. I don't think that is a practical solution. I don't think the world can have an easy transition from the monetary world that we've been living in to a totally non-monetary world with the snap of a finger. I don't want to go back to an agrarian society, building our own houses and living in tents and being nomadic and stuff like that. That will not work with 6.5 to 7 billion people on the planet. It will not work, period. It just won't work. Not in the short run. Maybe in the long run we can get there, and I hope we can. I have that vision too, of living in a society where nobody needs money, but we're not even close. And so what happens in the banking system and the games that are being played there and the changes that are being made there are really important. Now, the BRICS nations used to not include Iran and Indonesia. Those are 2 newly added ones, and there's apparently Venezuela and some other countries are going to be added to this alternative system as well. Money is not the answer, though. But I'll tell you the truth. What's happened in Cyprus is an indicative thing of what could happen in the Western world, the first world countries, very easily. As the European and North American banks go down, how much of the people's money are they just going to steal? Interesting question. They stole what? I guess 10% of all the deposits on record in the Cyprus banks. They just took the money away from the people. Now there's people that have made their money illicitly, falsely, and they should have all of their money, virtually all of their money, taken away from them. Almost all of the people that are CEOs of multinational corporations and big banks have made their money through fraud. That money should not be theirs. That should be confiscated and redistributed to the people that they stole it from. That's justice. That's justice. I don't mean that they shouldn't be able to survive if they genuinely own their crime against humanity, if they genuinely come clean and tell the truth. Oh, then they should be pardoned, but they should not be allowed to keep the spoils of their sick games and of their financial warfare that they've waged against the people of the world. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I'm glad for the One People's Public Trust because it put in the system, on paper, in legalese, it put the game, it spelled out the game that's been being played and saying, no more. No more. We're awake. We're awake now. And we're not going to let you get away with this. This is not acceptable behavior. We're foreclosing on you. You can rebut it if you want, but We all belong to the Creator, and unless you have a higher claim than the Creator on the Creator's creation, then shut up. We have the higher claim. We have the higher trust. Again, it's not an organization to belong to. It's nothing that you have to sign. It's not a new hierarchy. No, it's about freedom. And somehow we have to combine the knowing what's true, knowing the truth, with a loving heart, with recognizing where true value lies. It doesn't lie in any monetary system. It lies within us. We are the primary foundation for all the resources, us and the earth itself. We are the resources, not money. Okay? Changes have to come in our awakening, in our awareness. Changes have to come that let us know who we are, so that we can stand in truth and create a world literally that works for everyone. So I'm really glad what the BRICS nations are doing. It may be just another step in the process, just like the OPPT is a step in the process. And I'd like to know the truth, because ultimately when we know the absolute truth, we will be set free. Thank you again for listening, and I trust you'll have a good day and a good weekend, and I'll, God willing, be back tomorrow. Namaste.